Shalom and welcome to Torah and Coffee. I have mine. Do you have yours? Today's Torah reading is going to be found in Exodus chapter 6, starting on verse 2 through Exodus 9:35. The Haftadrah is in Ezekiel chapter 28:25 through chapter 29:21. The BeritHadasah is going to be in Romans chapter 9:14 through 17, and 2 Corinthians 6, starting at verse 14 through chapter 7, verse 1. So, enjoy your Torah and coffee. We're going to start in Exodus. I'm going to start at verse 1. I know it's last week's, but I'm going to start verse 1. Then Yahweh said to Moses, "You shall soon see what I will do to Pharaoh. He shall let them go because of a greater might. Indeed, because of a greater might, he shall drive them from his land." This is when Moses approached the burning bush and God started revealing himself to Moshe. So let's pick up in chapter 6, verse 2. Yahweh spoke to Moshe and said to him, "I am Yahweh. I appeared to Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov as El Shaddai, but I did not make myself known to them by my name Yahweh. I also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, the land in which they lived as sojourners. I have now heard the moaning of the Israelites because the Egyptians are holding them in bondage, and I have remembered my covenant. Say therefore to Bnei Yisrael, I am Yahweh. I will free you from the labors of the Egyptians and deliver you from their bondage. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and through extraordinary chastisements. And I will take you to be my people, and I will be your God, and you shall know that I, Yahweh, am your God, who freed you from the labors of the Egyptians. I will bring you into a land which I swore to give to Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, and I will give it to you for a possession. I, Yahweh." But when Moshe told this to the Israelites, they would not listen to Moshe, their spirit crushed by cruel bondage. Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, "Go and tell Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to let the Israelites depart from this land." But Moshe appealed to Yahweh, saying, "The Israelites would not listen to me. How then would Pharaoh heed me, a man of impeded speech?" So Yahweh spoke to Moshe and Aaron in regard to the Israelites and Pharaoh, king of Egypt, instructing them to deliver the Israelites from the land of Egypt. The fallen are the heads of the respective clans, the sons of Reuben, Yisroel's firstborn, Enoch, and Palu, Shethron, and Carmi. Those are the families of Reuben. The sons of Shimon, Shemuel, Yamin, Ohad, Yachim, Zohar, and Shaul, the son of a Canaanite woman. These are the families of Shimon. These are the names of Levi's sons by their lineage: Gershon, Kehat, and Merari, and the span of Levi was 137 years. The sons of Gershon, Libni and Shimei, by their families. The sons of Kehat, Amram, Issah, Shephron, and Uziel, and the span of the Kehat life was 133 years. The sons of Moriah, Mahali, and Mushi, they are the families of the Levium by their lineage. 20. Amram took to wife his father's sister Jochebed, and she bore him Aaron and Moshe, and the span of Amram's life was 137 years. The sons of Esau, Korah, Nepheg, and Silshi, the son of Uzi, Michael, Elizaphan, and Sisera. Aaron took to wife Elisheva, daughter of Aminadab, and sister of Nashon, and she bore him Nadab, and Abihu, Eleazar, Itamar, the son of Korah, Asir, Elkanah, and Abiasaph, the son of those are the families of the Korahites, and Aaron's son Eleazar took to wife one of Pethuel's daughters, and she bore him Pinah. Those are the heads of the father's house of Levium by their families. It is the same Aaron and Moshe to whom Yahweh said, "Bring forth the Israelites from the land of Egypt, troop by troop." It was they who spoke to Pharaoh's king of Egypt to free the Israelites from the Egyptians. These are the same Moshe and Aaron. For when Yahweh spoke to Moshe in the land of Egypt, and Yahweh said to Moshe, "I am Yahweh, speak to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, all that I will tell you." Moshe appealed to Yahweh, saying, "See, I am of impeded speech. How then should Pharaoh heed me?" 7. Yahweh replied to Moshe, "See, I place you in the role of Yahweh, of a God to Pharaoh, with your brother Aaron as your Navi. You shall repeat all that I command you, and your brother Aaron shall speak to Pharaoh to let the Israelites depart from his land. But I will harden Pharaoh's heart, that I may multiply my signs and marvels in the land of Egypt. When Pharaoh does not heed you, I will lay my hand upon the Egyptians and deliver my ranks, my people the Israelites, from the land of Egypt with extraordinary chastisement. And the Egyptians shall know that I am Yahweh when I stretch out my hand over Egypt and bring out the Israelites from their midst." This Moshe and Aaron did as Yahweh commanded them, so he did. Moshe was 80 years old and Aaron 83 when they made the demand on Pharaoh. Yahweh said to Aaron and Moshe, verse 8, Aaron said to Moshe and Aaron, "When Pharaoh speaks to you and says, 'Produce your marvels,' you shall say to Aaron, 'Take your rod and cast it down before Pharaoh. It shall turn into a serpent.'" So Moshe and Aaron came before Pharaoh and did just as Yahweh had commanded. Aaron cast down his rod in the presence of Pharaoh and his courtiers, and it turned into a serpent. Then Pharaoh, for his part, summoned his wise men and his sorcerers, and the Egyptian magicians, in turn, did the same with their spells. Each cast his rod, and they turned into serpents, but Aaron's rod swallowed their rods. Yet Pharaoh's heart stiffened, and he did not heed them as Yahweh had said. And Yahweh said to Moshe, "Pharaoh is stubborn. He refuses to let the people go. Go to Pharaoh in the morning as he is coming out to the water, and station yourself before him at the edge of the Nile, taking with you the rod that turned into a snake, and say to him, Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, sent me to you to say, let my people go, that they may worship me in the wilderness, but you have paid no heed until now. Thus says Yahweh, but this you shall know, that I am Yahweh. See, I shall strike the water in the Nile with the rod that is in your hand, and it will be turned into blood. And the fish of the Nile will die, the Nile will sink, so that the Egyptians will find it impossible to drink the water in the Nile. And Yahweh said to Moses, say to Aaron, take your rod and hold it out your arm over the water of Egypt, its rivers, its channels, its ponds, all its bodies of water, that they may turn to blood. There shall be blood throughout the land of Egypt, even in vessels of wood and stone. 20. Moshe and Aaron did just as Yahweh had commanded. He lifted up his rod and struck the water in the Nile in the sight of Pharaoh and his courtiers, and all the water in the Nile was turned into blood. And the fish in the Nile died, the Nile stank, so that the Egyptians could not drink water from the Nile, and there was blood throughout the land of Egypt. But when the Egyptian magicians did the same with their spells, Pharaoh's heart stiffened, and he did not heed them as Yahweh had spoken. Pharaoh turned and went into his palace, paying no regard even to this. And the Egyptians had to dig round about the Nile for drinking water, because they could not drink the water of the Nile. When 7 days had passed after Yahweh struck the Nile, Yahweh said to Moses, go to Pharaoh and say to him, thus says Yahweh, let my people go, that they may worship me. If you refuse to let them go, then I will pluck you, your whole country with. If you refuse to let them go, then I will plague your whole country with frogs. The Nile will swarm with frogs, and they shall come up and enter your palace, your bedchambers, your bed, your houses of your courtiers and your people, and your oven and your kneading bowls. The frogs shall come up on you and on your people and on all your courtiers. Chapter 8. And Yahweh said to Moshe, say to Aaron, hold out your arm with the rod over the river, the channels, and the ponds, and bring up the frogs on the land of Egypt. Aaron held out in his arm over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. For the magicians did the same with their spells, and brought frogs upon the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh summoned Moshe and Aaron and said, plead with Yahweh to remove the frogs from me and my people, and I will let the people go to sacrifice to Yahweh. And Moshe said to Pharaoh, you may have this triumph over me. For what time shall I plead on behalf of you and your courtiers and your people, that the frogs be cut off from you and your houses, to remain only in the Nile? For tomorrow, he replied. And Moshe said, as you say, that you may know that there is none like Yahweh our God. The flock shall retreat from you, and your courtiers and your people, they shall remain only in the Nile. Then Moshe and Aaron left Pharaoh's presence, and Moshe cried out to Yahweh in the matter of the frogs which he had inflicted upon Pharaoh. And Yahweh did as Moshe asked. The frogs died out in the houses, the courtyards, and the fields, and they piled them up in heaps till the land stank. When the Pharaoh saw that they were relieved, he became stubborn and would not heed them as Yahweh had spoken. Verse 12. Then Yahweh said to Moses, say to Aaron, hold out your rod and strike the dust of the earth, and it shall turn to lice throughout the land of Egypt. And they did so. Aaron held out his arm with the rod and struck the dust of the earth, and vermin came upon man and beast. All the dust of the earth turned to lice throughout the land of Egypt. The magicians did not delight with their spell to produce lice, but they could not. The vermin remained upon man and beast, and the magician said to Pharaoh, this is the finger of Yahweh. But Pharaoh's heart stiffened, and he would not heed them, as Yahweh had said. And Yahweh said to Moshe, early in the morning present yourself to Pharaoh, as he is coming out to the water, and say to them, thus says Yahweh, let my people go, that they may worship me. For if you do not let my people go, I will let loose swarms and insects against you, and your courtiers, and your people, and your homes, the houses of the Egyptians, and the very ground they stand on shall be filled with swarms of insects. But on that day I will set apart the region of Goshen, where my people dwell, so that no swarms of insects shall be there, that you may know that I, Yahweh, am in the midst of the land. And I will make a distance between my people and your people. Tomorrow the sign shall come to pass. 20. And Yahweh did so. Heavy swarms of insects invaded Pharaoh's palace, and the houses of the couriers throughout the country of Egypt. The land was ruined because of the swarms of insects. And Pharaoh summoned Moshe and Aaron and said, go and sacrifice to your God within the land. But Moshe replied, it would not be right to do this, for what we sacrifice to Yahweh our God is untouchable to the Egyptians. If they sacrifice that which is untouchable to the Egyptians before their very eyes, will they not stone us? So we must go a distance of 3 days into the wilderness and sacrifice to Yahweh our God, as he may command us. Pharaoh said, I will let you go to sacrifice to Yahweh your God in the wilderness, but do not go very far. Plead then for me. And Moshe said, when I leave your presence, I will plead to Yahweh that the swarm of insects depart tomorrow from Pharaoh and his courtiers and his people. But let not Pharaoh again act deceitfully, not letting the people go to sacrifice to Yahweh. So Moshe left Pharaoh's presence and pleaded with Yahweh. And Yahweh said to Moses, and and Yahweh did as Moses asked. He removed the swarm of insects from Pharaoh, from his courtiers, and from his people. Not one remained, but Pharaoh became stubborn this time also, and would not let the people go. 9. Yahweh said to Moshe, "Go to Pharaoh and say to him, Thus says Yahweh, to the God of the Hebrew, let my people go to worship me. For if you refuse to let them go and continue to hold them, then the hand of Yahweh will strike your livestock in the fields, the horses, the asses, the camels, the cattle, and the sheep, with a very severe pestilence. But Yahweh will make a distinction between the livestock of Israel and the livestock of the Egyptians, so that nothing shall die of all that belongs to the Israelites." Yahweh has fixed the time tomorrow. Yahweh will do this thing in the land, and Yahweh did so. The next day, all the livestock of the Egyptians died, but the livestock of the Israelites, not a beast, died. When Pharaoh inquired, he found that not a head of the livestock of Israel had died. Yet Pharaoh remained stubborn, and he would not let the people go. 8. Then Yahweh said to Moses and Aaron, "Each of you take a handful of soot from the kiln, and let Moshe throw it toward the sky in the sight of Pharaoh. It shall become a fine dust all over the land of Egypt and cause an inflammation, breaking out in boils on man and beast throughout the land of Egypt." So they took soot of the kindle and appeared before Pharaoh. Moshe threw it towards the sky, and it caused an inflammation breaking out in the boils of man and beast. The magicians was unable to confront Moses because of the inflammation, for their inflammation afflicted the magicians as well as all the other Egyptians. But Yahweh stiffened the heart of Pharaoh, and he would not heed them, just as Yahweh had told Moshe. 13. Yahweh said to Moshe, "Early in the morning, present yourself to Pharaoh and say to him, Thus says Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, let my people go to worship me. For this time I will send all my plagues upon your person and your courtiers and your people, in order that you may know that there is none like me in all the world. I could have stretched out forth my hand and stricken you and your people with pestilence, and you would have been affected from the earth. Nevertheless, I have spared you for this purpose, in order to show you my power, in order that my fame may resound throughout the world. Yet you continue to thwart my people and do not let them go. This time tomorrow I will rain down a very heavy hail, and such as has not been in Egypt from the day it was founded until now. Therefore, order your livestock and everything you have in the open, bound under shelter. Every man and beast that is found outside, not having been brought indoors, shall perish when the hail comes down upon them." 20. Those among Pharaoh's courtiers who feared Yahweh's word brought the slaves and livestock indoors to safety. But those who paid no heed to the word of Yahweh left their slaves and livestock in the open. Yahweh said to Moshe, hold out your arm toward the sky, that hail may fall on the land of Egypt, upon man and beast, and all the grasses in the field, in the land of Egypt. So Moshe held out his rod toward the sky, and Yahweh sent thunder and hail, and fire streamed down to the ground, as Yahweh rained down hail upon the land of Egypt. The hail was very heavy, fire flashing in the midst of the hail, such as had not fallen in the land of Egypt since it had become a nation. Throughout the land of Egypt the hail struck down all that were in the open, both man and beast. The hail also struck down all the grasses of the field, and shattered all the trees of the field. Only in the region of Goshen, where the Israelites were, there was no hail. Thereupon Pharaoh sent for Moshe and Aaron, and said to them, I stand guilty this time. Yahweh is in the right, and I and my people are in the wrong. Plead with Yahweh, that there may be an end of Yahweh's thunder and of hail. I will let you go. You need stay no longer. Moshe said to him, as I go out of the city, I shall spread out my hands towards Yahweh. The thunder will cease, and the hail will fall no more, so that you may know that the earth is Yahweh's. 30. But I know that you and your couriers do not yet fear Yahweh. Now the flax and barley were ruined, for the barley was in the ear, and the flax was in the bud. But the wheat and the emmer were not heard, for they ripened late. Leaving Pharaoh, Moshe went outside the city and spread out his hand to the thunder, and the hail ceased, and no rain came pouring down upon the earth. But when Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunder had ceased, he became stubborn and reverted to his guilty ways, as did his courtiers. So Pharaoh's heart stiffened, and he would not let the Israelites go, just as Yahweh had foretold through Moshe. Let's turn over to Ezekiel. Ezekiel 25 to chapter 29, 21. Ezekiel 28:25. Thus says Yahweh, when I have gathered the house of Israel from the people among which they have been dispersed, and I have shown myself holy through them in the sight of the nations, they shall settle on their own soil, which I gave to my servant Jacob. And they shall dwell in it in security. They shall build houses and plant vineyards, and shall dwell on it in security. When I have meted out punishment to all those about them who despise them, and they shall know that I, Yahweh, am their God. In the 10th year, on the 12th day of the 10th month, the word of Yahweh came to me. O mortal, turn your face against Pharaoh's king of Egypt, and prophesy against him, and against all Egypt. Speak these words, thus says Yahweh, I am going to deal with you, O Pharaoh, king of Egypt, mighty monster, sprawling in your channels, who said, My Nile is my own. I made it for myself. I will put hooks into your jaws and make the fish of your channels cling to your scales. I will haul you up from your channels with all the fish of your channels clinging to your scales. And I will fling you into the desert with all the fish of your channels. You shall be left lying in the open, ungathered and unburied. I have given you as food to the beasts of the earth and the birds of the sky. Then all the inhabitants of earth shall know that I am Yahweh, because you were a staff of reed to the house of Israel. When they grasp you with the hand, you would splinter and wound all their shoulders, and when they leaned on you, you would break and make all the lions unsteady. Assuredly, thus said Yahweh, lo, I will bring a sword against you, and I will cut off man and beast from you, so that the land of Egypt shall fall into desolation and ruin, and they shall know that I am Yahweh, because he boasted, the Nile is mine, and I made it. Assuredly, I am going to deal with you and your channels, and I will reduce the land of Egypt to utter ruin and desolation, from Migdol to Syene, all the way to the border of Nubia. No foot of man shall traverse it, and no foot of beast shall traverse it, and it shall remain uninhabited for 40 years. For 40 years I will make the land of Egypt the most desolate of desolate lands, and its cities shall be the most desolate of ruined cities. And I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations and disperse them throughout the countries. Further, thus said Yahweh, after a period of 40 years, I will gather the Egyptians from the people among whom they were dispersed. I will restore the fortune of the Egyptians and bring them back to the land of their origin, the land of pharaohs, and there they shall be a lowly kingdom. It shall be the lowliest of all the kingdoms, and shall not lord it over the nations again. I will reduce the Egyptians, so that they shall have no dominion over the nations. Never shall they be the first of the house of Israel, recalling its guilt in having turned to them, and they shall know that I am Yahweh. In the 24th year, on the first day of the month, the word of Yahweh came to me. O mortal, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, have made his army expend vast labor of Tyre. Every head is rough bald, and every shoulder scraped. But he and his army have no return for the labor of he expanded on Tyre. Assuredly, thus said Yahweh, I will give the land of Egypt to Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. He shall carry off the wealth and take her spoil and seize her booty, and she shall be recompensed of his army as the wage for which he labored, for what they did for me. I gave them the land of Egypt, declares Yahweh. On that day I will endow the house of Israel with strength, and you shall be vindicated among them, and they shall know that I am Yahweh. Let's go to the BeritHadasah. turn to Romans chapter 9. (14 through 17). Romans 9, 14 through 17. Let's see, where are we? 14 through 17. Okay. Romans 9, 14. So are we to say, it is unjust for God to do this. Heaven forbid. For to Moses says, I will have mercy on whom I have mercy, and I will pity whom I pity. Thus, it doesn't depend on human desire or effort, but on God, who has mercy. For the Tanakh says to Pharaoh, it is for this very reason that I raise you up, so that in connection with you I might demonstrate, so that my name might be known throughout the world. So then, he has mercy on whom he wants, and he hardens whom he wants. Let's turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 6, start at verse 14. Do not yoke yourself together in a team with unbelievers, for how can righteousness and lawlessness be partners? What fellowship does light have with darkness? What harmony can there be between Messiah and Belial? What does a believer have in common with an unbeliever? What agreement can there be between the temple of God and idols? For we are the temple of the living God. As God said, I will house myself in them, and I will walk among them. I will be their God, and they will be my people. Therefore, Adonai says, go out from their midst, separate yourselves, don't even touch what is unclean. Then I myself will receive you. In fact, I will be your father, and you will be my son and daughter, says Adonai Sabaoth. Therefore, my dear friend, since we have those promises, let us purify ourselves from everything that can defile either body or spirit, and strive to be complete, holy, and of reverence. Let me read chapter 7, verse 1 again. Therefore, my dear friends, since we have this promise, let us purify ourselves from everything that can defile either body or spirit, and strive to be completely holy, out of reverence for God. This concludes the Torah portion for this week. May Yah bless you and keep you. May Yah shine His light upon you and give you shalom. May He teach you His truth and righteousness, and fill you with shalom in Yeshua's name. Amen. Until next week with Torah and coffee, shalom.